been able to send a voice note to LeBron James via Rich Paul. So whether it's an owner, a president, or a general manager being able to record a voice note, I'm told, send it to Rich Paul, and that makes its way to LeBron James. This is just a part of LeBron James's process of studying as he makes a decision. He has not been in a rush. There's been no timetable that he's been operating under. I'm told there's been a lot of family time, friends time, golf, of course, over the last couple of weeks. The last two he's spent in the Akron, Ohio area, including with one of his close friends that he grew up with in Brandon Weems, who's now one of the leading executives of the Cleveland Cavaliers under President Kobe Altman. So the process continues, and it's unclear whether Cleveland or Miami have been among the teams that have sent a voice note to LeBron via Rich Paul. Again, they kind of don't need to. They already had him in their buildings in the recent past.
Every little Easter egg, we got to grasp onto it. Brandon Weems, that's a friend, Cleveland, just making a point. By the way, correct me if I'm wrong, when the Warriors had their pitches to both Andre Iguodala and Kevin Durant in separate instances, didn't they have this whole virtual reality presentation or something involving all this tech, and then it totally went awry in both cases, and they're like, oh, what a disaster, and Andre's just like, guys, look, put away the laptop. I just want to come play for you, make it work with the money. And then with KD, it was kind of awkward, and I think the account was that Steph started piping up, and then the guys were chiming in, and he's like, look, bro, I don't need the ball every possession. I just want another title. So bottom line is, voice text or not, I feel like LeBron probably has an idea of where he's going.
You'd think, although giving everybody an opportunity without the actual contact, I will say I kind of respect that. Like, who needs to actually talk to anybody? You just give me your messages and I will sift through them, or I will have Rich Paul sift through them. No need to actually have a conversation. But wow, yeah. And for the hanging out with his buddy, now he's hanging out with his other buddy Draymond Green. So Draymond's going to be talking his ear off over the course of their time together about wanting to come to Golden State and wanting him to join. So we'll see how it all shakes out here, but I may wind up being wrong as it relates to us having an answer before we're off the air here tomorrow to close out the week at 2 p.m. Pacific.
Well, yeah, just sifting through a lot of the headlines and rumors. There was something yesterday that's like, LeBron's plan is to golf and hang out with family and friends, and this thing could go at least another week. And I'm like, oh, man, maybe Danny in Vancouver was onto something. I don't think it's going to be months, but it's maybe not by the end of this weekend for sure.
More speculation for you here. Did you see that both LeBron James and Anthony Davis liked Steph Curry's latest Instagram post out on the golf course up at Edgewood in Tahoe? He's about to tee off. Steph's about to tee off, and it was, beautiful, beautiful picture of the trees and the mountains up there in Tahoe. And Steph about to tee off at Edgewood, and both LeBron and Anthony Davis and Carmelo Anthony, I might add. Maybe he's going to come out of retirement and join the unction. But both of those guys wound up liking the Stephen Curry post.
I'm just
glad. Read into that.
I'm just glad that a Bay Area athlete puts something on social media, and that's the biggest amount of drama we're getting from it. Just saying.
It's slightly different than Brandon Ayuk or Logan Webb, for that matter. Yeah. Slightly different than both.
I know. One of my takeaways yesterday is I was like, maybe this is a good day to stay off of Twitter, and certainly for the local athletes too. So anyway, yeah, I mean, look, Steph's getting asked about it a bunch. He had the interview with Ron Kroichek, of course, that we can get into. And NBA Today is on in the studio right now. One of the headlines says Shams has the Cavs, Sixers, and Heat as the speculative top three teams for James right now. And so I want to get back into the whole Anthony Davis of it, though, because we dove into that from the jump when there was the whole notion of, could they put together a big four? And I said, look, all things being equal, I'd probably take Jimmy Butler, see what he can do post-injury, and see if you can get LeBron James on the $15 million without having to trade for Anthony Davis. Now as this thing has started to go on a little bit farther, and all of those other names like a Simons and a Sexton ended up finding other homes elsewhere, I am starting to be a little bit conflicted on the Davis thing, where it's on one hand, is running it back going to have any belief that this team is going to do anything of relevance? It depends on how many games Steph Curry's available for. Really, that's the question right there. On the other, the notion of given a large trade package to go and get Anthony Davis, if Washington even wanted to indulge in that, and then maybe pay him an extension beyond that, whether it's max or something close to it with a lot of money, is that really all worth 1 year of LeBron James when I think a lot of the local fan base and community would say, do you think if LeBron James comes for 1 year that this team is going to win a title? I think most people would say, yeah, probably not.
Well, here's where I want to go with it, because I don't think Anthony Davis in the literal sense is necessarily the point. To me, it's more indicative of the fact that the Warriors don't have an appealing enough roster to meaningfully be in the race here with LeBron James. And so I think that's the part that I think is the most frustrating. It's Anthony Davis or it's go do something else, but at face value, you're not so great that LeBron's just going to pick you. And if he does, he's just going to pick you, based on Steph Curry and Draymond Green alone. I think that's more like when you look at we could debate whether it's the right or the wrong thing to go get Anthony Davis and what you would spend on it, and do you have to spend on him? And I think there are varying opinions on that are all fair. But for the Warriors to just think, yep, this is our team, come play with Steph, and it feels like the Warriors went from, I don't want to say being a favorite here, but being legitimately in the mix to not really legitimately being in the mix for the better part of the last week. And the reason is, yeah, you got Steph, you got Draymond, but other than that, not really all that appealing. And here's a bunch of these other teams who, yeah, sure, maybe it's the appeal of going to Cleveland or going back to Miami or joining up with Anthony Edwards in Minnesota, although it doesn't sound as if that's going to happen. But these are better situations from a basketball standpoint. And so I don't know. I think the frustration from the Warrior fan base is fair that they would just sit on what they have and think that would be enough to earn themselves a commitment from LeBron James. It's a little tone deaf, honestly, as to where you are in the landscape of the entire league overall.
Yeah, I think it's the Warriors maybe going back to the whole concept of delusion and what we talked about with the Giants, maybe believing that they could be something that they're not, rather than just committing to a direction. Not that the Warriors need to go in that direction of rebuilding. Nobody's saying that, and they're not going to, as long as they have Steph Curry, but also maybe a little bit of hubris or a false sense of their level of desirability just because they have Steph Curry and Draymond Green around.
I think the other part is, and this is like, you kind of did this in your initial comment, and I think it's something that we discuss frequently. It's this notion that you have to be able to win a title to make a significant move. How about you just look to improve the team? How about you just look to get better, right? Like maybe it isn't even about LeBron. And again, I'm not coming down your road or chastising you. It's just the notion of like try to like what they currently have plus Yaxel Lindeberg with Jimmy Butler and Moses Moody hurt ain't good enough. So look to maybe make some other moves. And I'll even give them the benefit of the doubt that they're trying to hold this spot for LeBron. And at the point in which if LeBron says he's not coming, all right, now it becomes sort of go time to be able to do something different. But I just think the Warriors have too frequently been stuck in this. Well, we're only going to go after moves that can help us become a championship contender. And if we can't do the move that helps us believe we're a championship contender, then doing nothing is the right answer. And doing nothing is the wrong answer. It's how about you just look to get a little bit better? And it even plays back to the end of the season press conferences where the discussion was about championship not being the goal. How about you just do what it takes to get? Why don't you just do what it takes to be a team that maybe isn't a title contender, but one that you're pretty confident can push or win 50 games and may not be a title contender? Like, would you rather have that than needing everything to go right in an attempt to avoid winning 36 or 37 games? Because I feel like that's where this team sits as things currently are.
I was just thinking about the whole notion of lowered expectations and actions speaking louder than words. It's kind of twofold, right? Because there's the part of it where you could say they're not really backing that up because they're only willing to make moves that they feel like can get them back in that conversation. On the other hand, I'm thinking, look, if LeBron's not coming, which I think say much more likely than not at this point, then there is absolutely going to be lower expectations because it's essentially the same roster minus Kuminga, minus Quentin Post, insert LeJay Jones and Yaxel Lendeborg, and you kind of know what that team's going to look like with the understanding of about how many games you could pencil in Moody, Horford, Porzingis, Draymond, and Steph to miss. I didn't even put Melton on that list, another year removed from surgery, but JD, that's 5 guys right there of all that talks about, hey, the Warriors need to find 2 different normals now. One when their vets are healthy and one when maybe it's a little bit more of, you need the regular season guys to carry you through. I think they still just have one of the same normal.
You're not tearing this thing down to the studs, which would require trading Steph. So if you're not doing that, why wouldn't you just try to be as good as you possibly can be and understand that there's a value in, sure, maybe you can't win a title. And look, LeBron coming, if LeBron surprises us all at this point and decides, hey, I'm coming, and it doesn't require the Warriors getting Anthony Davis or anything like that. He just wants to play with Steph and Draymond and be coached by Steve Kerr. If that's the way that it ultimately goes, like, it doesn't mean that the Warriors are title contenders with the roster that they'd have plus LeBron. So why does it but although I do think it would be sold as such, so why, if you can't get LeBron, do you not want to look to improve the team at a level that may not be title contention, but will be a lot more aesthetically pleasing and enjoyable a team to watch and cover on a night in, night out basis? And I think that's the point at which, if they don't get him, I want to know, and to me, more important than them not getting LeBron or getting LeBron, I want to know what the next step is. I want to know because there needs to be a move. The move cannot be, well, we didn't get LeBron, and all of the guys that we deem worthy of the non-taxpayer mid-level are now gone, so we're just going to run it back with the team that basically we said we didn't want to run it back with. Like, that's the other part of it that's so maddening is, you know, the Warrior, well, too old, too many guys on back-to-backs that can't play, you know, need to get younger, all of those things. And the only legitimate way they've done that is with the addition of Yaxel Lendeborg, who in a perfect world would be a great addition to a team with Jimmy Butler and Moses Moody fully healthy. Now, that team would have action, but Moses Moody and Jimmy Butler are not fully healthy. And, oh, by the way, had they both been fully healthy, you wouldn't have been near bad enough to get Yaxel Lendeborg either. So
right.
It's just that can't be the move, right? The move can't be we like the team that we have at that point. The move needs to be look to if you can't get LeBron, add in a meaningful way. And I think that means trade probably more than free agent, looking at just who's available right now.